Well, I'm working on a new quilt. This is going to be a wall hanging, and I've done snowflakes on it. And I wanted to show you how I did that. This is it started out as plain red fabric, and the snowflakes were essentially spray painted on top of that. And first I made the snowflakes using freezer paper, and the paper has a shiny side, and if you put that down and press it, it'll stick. So first I'm going to show you how to make the snowflake. So you want to just cut a square of the freezer paper, and it doesn't have to be perfectly square, but you're going to do the best you can to fold it into, and I'm trying to do this without getting myself in the way here. So you'll fold it in quarters, and the extra not perfect where you tore it off, that'll come off when you trim the edges. So you fold it down the diagonal this way, and then this way, line up your points. And you're going to want to really crease your edges well, because it'll make it easier to cut. So now we have quarters. If you open it up, you can see 4 along the diagonals there. And now the hard part. Snowflakes have 6 points. So if I were to want to make it 8, I would fold it one more time and then one more time again, and that would give me 8 points, and that's an easy way to do it. But I like to make it have 6. So you need to fold the edges over approximately like this. And it's hard to tell whether you've got it right until you fold this edge over to here. And I don't know if you can see this, I folded it too far because it's bunching it up here. So you want to adjust until when you fold it, you get those inside edges lined right up, and all of your edges meet in the middle. So now you have 3 pieces on this side, like that. And again, give it a good crease. Make sure it's nice and crisp there. And then you can start cutting it out. That line across here of that fold, that'll be about as big as that snowflake can be. So starting with on this edge, you can't see that as much. So I start on this side. Look at the fold, and don't try to make it above that. So first thing is, you're going to want to take your non-fabric scissors and do sort of a basic shape. And it's nice to have sort of a double point here. This longer point will become the longer bit in the snowflakes, like that. This shorter piece will become the shorter part. So now it's just a matter of, now I have done some very much more detailed snowflakes. In fact, I have some patterns for those available on my my Etsy store that will show you how to do this again, and it has the snowflakes create a pattern. I've got some with angels in them and reindeer and nativity scenes and various things. But anyway, that's your basic way to cut this, and then you'll do a series of cuts along the fold line and the rest of it. And the idea here is that I try to make the interior cuts match the exterior cuts. What a lot of people will end up doing is just randomly cutting out shapes and not paying attention to these outside edges. And what happens when you do that is that it makes your snowflake look less realistic and less detailed. So you don't want to just arbitrarily cut pieces out. You sort of follow the outside edges and cut your interior cuts to go with what's happening on the outside. Of course, you can be as detailed or as simple as you want to, and there's no limitation to how fancy you want to make it. The real secret, I find, is a good sharp pair of scissors. Again, don't use your fabric scissors. And accurate folding is a big help. So once you've got it all cut, then you can unfold it. Carefully so you don't tear it. Now if I was doing this on regular paper, I wouldn't be able to press it to the fabric, but I would be able to press it flat, and then I could use it to simply hang it by itself. Again, you just want to be careful with opening to make sure that you don't tear the bits. And there you have a big snowflake. So, what I would do again is shiny side down. That would get put on to the fabric. Get it into position where you want it. Then go over it with your iron onto the fabric, and that sticks it down. And not permanently, it just sticks it down, and then you'll be able to get that off afterwards. So then the next thing that you do after you get all your snowflakes cut out and adhered to the fabric the way you want, and in this case my fabric is, believe it or not, it's canvas. I wanted a red piece of fabric, and that was the only big piece I had in my a solid red that I had in my stash, so that's what I used. I'm not worried about it being soft because it's going to be a wall hanging. If you want to make a nice soft usable quilt, you certainly would want a softer quilt type fabric. I used this quilting fabric on the back, but I used again, what I had on hand. So it's blue, and what's going to happen is on the back, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but there'll be blue snowflakes on the back. So anyway, you've got your snowflakes made, and you've got them pressed down to the fabric, and then you'll need to do the dyeing part. And this is what I used. This is pitch black fabric paint spray. www.simplyspray.com. And it's not really like paint, it's like dye, but in a spray can. And I just lightly misted the paint over the whole thing, and this red is the color that it was before I painted it, and with the black paint over it, it became sort of a burgundy color. Then after it's sprayed, you peel off the snowflakes, and you are left with the image of the snowflake onto the fabric. Now I could have used any different combinations of colors. I'm planning to do another one in blue. Use a medium to light blue fabric, and again, black spray paint, so I'll get more of a navy colored background and a blue in the snowflakes. But you could use any color, and it would work. So then the next step is to layer it. I used polyester batting and again, cotton quilting fabric for the back, and I spray basted it together because pins drive me crazy, and then it's on to quilting. And I'll show you a little bit of the quilting in the snowflakes. I used black thread to do sort of just a swirly pattern in the background here, and that is 40 weight cotton thread, and I'm also using 40 weight cotton to do the quilting in the snowflakes. So this is my Singer. Let me zoom in. This is my Singer 66. It's a treadle, but any snowflake, any sewing machine will give you good results. Okay, I think that's good. The thing is, you need to have the right foot, a quilting foot. This is a good choice. I don't know if you can see that, but that style works good. The one I have in here is a different version of that was made by Singer, and specifically for free motion embroidery, but it works great on quilting. So, and of course, when you are working on a bigger piece, one of your challenges is to get it all under the machine. So try to be careful not to get any puckers and bunches in your fabric. And we will begin. So first, bring up the thread. Again, this is 40 weight cotton. The brand is Presencia, and it's a nice long grain, long fibered 3-ply cotton, and I just want to make sure my thread isn't tangled up. I start by doing a couple of stitches right together so it doesn't move, or the thread doesn't want to come out. And then it's just a lot of really teeny tiny circles. And you're not going to be able to go real fast, because otherwise you'll lose your place and start sewing over the cutout and lose the design. So slow and steady. I'm using the treadle so it's easy for me to go slow. If you're using a standard home electric machine, you just need to practice to make sure that you know how to not go too fast. And I'm just going to go over and over and over, around and around, and get those little parts filled in. And then I'll fill in the background with that swirl pattern, and that's all there is to it. Now I decided to try this because, you know, I've been making snowflakes forever, probably 40 plus years of snowflake making, and I've done various things with them. But I wanted to do a design with them that didn't require applique. I've done some other things with applique, but I thought it would be nice to have a non-applique alternative, and I am really pleased with how the paint worked. I'm going to try it again. As I said, I'm planning to make a blue one, so I will try the technique again with regular quilt fabric instead of this heavier canvas. But so far, so good. Now there's instructions for spraying that paint on the packaging, and I would certainly always recommend following the instructions. You don't need to use pre-treated, ready-for-dye fabric. You don't need to use any kind of a setting agent. You don't need to use, it says you don't even need to heat set it. But you do want to pre-wash the fabric, get the sizing off of it so that it is ready to take the dye better. And you don't want to put fabric softener in your wash, because that will leave a film on the fabric that would make it not be as absorbent, and give it a good press after it comes out of the wash, and you're ready to go. So I think it's a very easy way to get a nice design on the fabric that will highlight your quilting. It doesn't require any piecing to make a nice looking quilt. Now I much prefer quilting to applique or piecing, so for me this is a perfect way to do it. And so I get to enjoy making my snowflakes, and then I get to almost immediately move right into quilting. I don't have to spend hours cutting out appliques or days hand appliquing them down. So anyway, I think it's a great way to do a snowflake quilt. And I also think this would be a good way to do any other motif that you can cut out with freezer paper. It doesn't have to just be snowflakes. It could be flowers or anything else that you can cut out. You could use that spray to transfer them on. And the other thing I would mention is my first thought before I decided on this red fabric, I really thought I would do it with white fabric. Leave the snowflakes unquilted and heavily quilt in the background. That would give, so the background would be a different color, the snowflakes would be white, and all the heavy quilting would be in the open parts. That would be it'd give you a different look, and that would work great too. But when I saw this red, I thought, if I used white thread and really heavily quilt it, that it would sort of make the snowflakes have a nice lacy sort of look to them. And I think you can see that. So that's how I decided to do it. And I've got 5 of these big snowflakes on here, and I didn't even measure the fabric, so I can't tell you exactly how big it is. It's probably 40 by 50-ish. So it's however wide the canvas was, it's with the fabric from top to bottom, and then it's about 36, 38, 40, something like that, the wide dimension. So it's a fairly decent sized quilt. And as I said, it'll be a wall hanging, but you wouldn't need to do that. It could be made into with the proper fabric, could easily be made into a usable quilt. Which isn't to say that a wall hanging isn't usable, but you know what I mean. I'll wrap it up and keep warm quilt. So anyway, that's how I'm working on making the snowflake quilt. And let me just see if I can get this to zoom out there. You can see a little more of it. So lots more stitching to go, but that's going to be my Christmas quilt for this year, and I'm cutting it close because we've only got a few more days. But I try to make one every year, and I was getting down to the wire, so I also wanted a fast project. So there it is. Happy quilting.